I played baseball my whole life.
Cool.
So, yeah.
What position?
Like, what's my favorite position?
In this video, you're getting a breakdown of the popular Netflix show Love is Blind by a professional online dating coach. Over the last months, a couple guys have asked me what I think of the show Love is Blind, because I'm not sure if you know, but Love is Blind is a show where men and women have to decide who they're gonna get engaged to and hopefully eventually get married to without ever seeing each other. So these men and women will get to know each other just by talking, just by having conversations. It's only the words they choose and the sound of their voice. There's no seeing each other and no touching. So it's way more closely related to texting than real life dating, which is why I found it interesting to have a look at the show. And man, there were some really interesting tips coming up. Some things you're gonna get today is a clothing hack to text better, a profile text tip from Lauren, a clever hack to build a deep connection in no time, how to give fun answers to boring questions, and Barnett's technique to sexualize any topic at all. Let's jump straight into the first scene. The first thing that you notice is that these men and women are looking really nice or looking fresh. They're having probably their best outfit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're wearing a really nice perfume and just trying to look their best, which is kind of funny if you think about it, because they can't even see each other, but obviously they want to look good for you and I watching, for everyone at home watching. But there's something going on a bit more deeper. Besides the fact that if you're looking sharp and you're wearing your favorite outfit, you'll just feel more confident. But on an even deeper level, and I learned this from a really good marketing copywriter, and this guy said like, hey, if you need to write, for example, a really formal text and you need to have a lot of authority in your words, then don't write this text when you're laying in the couch in your PJs with a bed head, but actually put on a nice suit, sit up straight behind your desk or go to a nice office space, and automatically this vibe will transfer into your words and your text will have way more authority. Now the same goes for you. Let's say you wake up in the morning, bedhead, maybe you're a little bit smelly, and you want to text a girl that you matched the day before, for example. Now if you're gonna write a text to her with your bedhead and your smelly armpits, and you compare this text to the one you would have written after the shower, you put on your favorite outfit, you did your hair, you're wearing your best perfume, you looked in the mirror and you're like, whoo, I'm looking sharp today. Compare these two texts and I guarantee you that the second text will be way better than the first text. Let's look at a conversation between Mark and Jessica.
Huge Bears fan.
I'm a Bears fan till I die.
Every Sunday, I dress up my dog. Her name is Peyton Hester. I
No
dressed her up in
freaking
her
way.
Peyton jersey. And we watch the Bears. You know what? I make the best Italian beef.
Seriously?
Oh.
Yo,
like-
I'm storing your name with Italian. Hold on.
No, literally, my Italian beef is the best.
So I love what Mark is doing here. They're talking about commonalities. Apparently they're both from the same city, same area. They're a fan of the same sports teams. And then don't shoot me in the comments, but I guess the Jessica is saying she makes the best Italian beef. I guess that's something related to the area or something with the sports. I don't even know. But Mark seems to love it and instantly is like, oh, I'm starting your name with Italian beef. And what he's doing here is really clever and it works very well on dating apps. He's giving her a nickname. So I wouldn't be surprised to say the next time Mark has a conversation with Jessica and he starts it off with, hey, how you doing, my Italian beef, or Italian beef queen, or you know what, something with Italian beef. She's instantly gonna be transferred back to this nice vibe that they had right now. And that's just the power of inside jokes and nicknames. So if you are having a conversation on an online dating app or WhatsApp or whatever texting platform, and you see an opportunity to give someone a nickname, just tell them that like, hey, from now on, this is your nickname, and then bring it back every time when you feel like it, and it's guaranteed to create a connection. Now in the next part, you're gonna meet another woman, and she's very clearly looking for one type of relationship, and we can turn this into a really nice profile text tip. So let's have a look.
My name is Lauren Speed, and I'm 32. I am originally from Detroit. My mom calls me at least once a week and reminds me that my eggs are swiveling up, like, no lie.
So what's really interesting here is that this woman, Lauren, she says that her mom calls her every week to remind her that her eggs are shriveling up. So she's pretty much saying like, hey, you have to start a family right now because this is when you're healthy and ready to do so. And this reminds me of a lot of women that you see on online dating. And to all the women watching this, I get it why you put these profiles. You're super fed up with all the fuckboy guys just looking for one-night stands and making direct sexual remarks like unasked for. So what a lot of women do is they put a bio like no one night stands, gentlemen only, exclusive relationship, you know, something like this. But what you're not aware about is that this is a very negative statement and not the correct way to get rid of these guys. And trust me, the guys really going for these one night stands, the typical fuckboys, they probably won't even read it and they'll try anyway. A better way to go about this is something like Lauren would say here. Change your bio, remove all that stuff and write, my mom calls me up every week to remind me that my eggs are shriveling up. Now you're saying the exact same thing but in a way more playful, light way that will crack a lot of men up, and the men looking for a relationship like this will definitely be more intrigued. It gets across the same message but in a positive, more playful way. In the next scene we're watching, Lauren meets Cameron for the first time and they're gonna exchange some more cliche interview type questions. Like you'll see Lauren asking Cameron like, hey, what do you do? Obviously these people know nothing about each other and they'll have to ask these questions at one point because who knows, they're gonna have to get married. But what Cameron does is really interesting. Instead of just giving a really boring answer, he does this.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in artificial intelligence.
When you say artificial intelligence, I think about like building robots and...
Yeah, basically taking over the world.
So instead of giving a boring answer like, oh yeah, I am programming all day, he makes it more fun and he says something along the lines of, yeah, I'm building robots and taking over the world.
That's awesome.
So instead of boringly stating what you do, a quick trick that I often give the guys that I'm coaching is like, hey, see it as if you're like a superhero or a super villain. So this guy chose more the villain route and he's gonna take over the world with the robots that he built. So instead of saying, yeah, I'm a barista, I make coffee, you could say, hey, I'm the reason the world wakes up in the morning. I'm the reason that whenever you go to a business meeting or a sports event, a workout, that you're super energized. You're saying the same thing, but it's way more fun. Or if you want to choose the villain route, you could say, hey, I'm the drug dealer of that one drug that half the world is addicted to, and I don't plan to stop dealing at all. Now the next part is one of the most interesting things in this video, because Lauren is gonna apply a technique that is super efficient at building a deep connection really fast and maybe even make people fall for you. And I don't think she's aware that she's doing it, but let's have a look.
Would you say that you're like an introvert or like an extrovert?
So it all starts when Lauren asks Cameron, hey, would you say you're more of an introvert or an extrovert? But the most interesting thing is her reaction after he gave his answer.
I think I'm more naturally introverted, but I can be extroverted when I need to be.
Okay.
How about yourself?
I think I'm a combination of the two. When I am around other people, I'm totally on. But there are times when I'm like, I just want to sit at home, watch movies and chill and drink wine
couldn't
and
agree
eat
more.
food.
So first she asks Cameron, hey, are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Would you say that you're like an introvert or like an extrovert?
And he's saying he's more an introvert, but around the right people, he turns kind of into an extrovert.
I think I'm more naturally introverted, but I can be extroverted when I need to be.
But did you see how she reacted to his reply? What she did is a really powerful technique where she pretty much said exactly the same thing as Cameron, but she rephrased it. She just used some different words and she made it a little bit more visual, but she just copied Cameron's answer, reformulated it a little bit, and then gave it back at him. And look at the smile on his face. He's like, wow, we are exactly the same.
Gosh, I really want to get to know you more.
I know, I like you.
I like you too.
I like your voice too, you sound cute.
Okay, so Cameron and Lauren are clearly hitting it off, and one thing that stood out to me is that after they saying that they like each other, she's like, wow, I really like your voice. And this to me is super interesting because I know how powerful the voice is, and I think, me personally, I have a quite mediocre voice. Never in the YouTube comments has anyone ever said like, oh, you have a really great voice. Never in real life has anyone said that. But for some reason, when I'm texting and I do voice messages, I get compliments on it all the time. And my students that use the same voice message techniques, they get compliments all the time as well. And if you want to know how to make the best use of voice messages and have way more impact with these, then check the link below to get a link to my program, because I have a couple techniques that really get most out of these voice messages. Now the next two people we're gonna watch are Barnett and Jessica. If you haven't seen the show yet, these two people will become quite big and one of them will turn into a living meme. But let's look at a part of their conversation.
You would look at me and think that I would be really girly, which I have that side of myself for sure, but I actually dig sports, and I definitely couldn't date a dude that wasn't into sports.
Ooh, I hate sports.
You do not.
No, I'm kidding. I played baseball my whole life.
So very interesting. What Barnett does here is that the woman he's talking to, she says like, oh, I really like it when guys do this. In this case, he says, I really like sportsy guys and I could never date a guy who's not into sports. And Barnett's reaction is this.
Ooh, I hate sports.
He used this exact same technique here.
Are you clumsy?
Generally, no. Lately, yes.
What about in bed?
Well, I ain't timid, that's for sure.
I've never had sex.
That's unfortunate. Next!
So he did the same thing here, because Amber is saying that she's definitely not timid in bed, kind of like bragging about it, and Barnett's reaction is like, oh.
I've never had sex.
So the technique that Barnett uses here is he's not proving himself, he's doing the opposite, he's disqualifying himself. And disqualifying yourself is actually something that really popular people do whenever they get an opportunity to prove themselves. Let's compare it to like a more inexperienced dater, the Jessica situation, and she's like, oh, I could never date a guy who's not big into sports. The newbie, he would be like, oh, but I love sports. I actually do swimming, cycling, and I go to the gym. Whereas the more popular guy like Barnett, he would just say like, ugh.
I hate sports.
With a smile on his face. Exactly this technique is something you can see on a screenshot popping up on your screen right now. This is a conversation between one of the mentoring program students I have and a girl that to him was like a perfect 10. And he opens her saying, how can you be truly British holding your drink with 4 fingers? And this girl, knowing that she is very popular and has a lot of options, she's not gonna justify herself, but instead she just says, I've failed at life. It's short, just like Barnett. It's like, ooh, I hate sports. It's low investment, and she's not taking the bait. And she keeps this up because my student is trying to get her to speak more, and he says, I think so, but there may still be hope for you. And she just responds, or maybe there isn't. A rocky start for my student, and luckily got better eventually, but it's just a great example of a very aloof attitude. In the next conversation between Barnett and Jessica, Jessica is gonna do something really smart that works even better over text.
I have a serious question for you around intimacy.
Ooh, yeah.
So they were having a great conversation, both laughing really hard, and then when they cooled down, Jessica suddenly makes it super serious and she says like, hey Barnett, I have a serious question for you around intimacy. So Barnett's probably thinking like, okay, something sexual is coming up right now. He's probably getting excited. And then she follows up with this.
What do you think about dogs in the bed?
Look at Barnett's face. He's just like, oh my god, she had me good. He was hoping the conversation was gonna turn sexual, and then she's like, oh, I'm actually just talking about dogs in the bed. Great setup by Jessica and great use of clickbait, and I was like, whoa, that's really good. I'm gonna put that to the test, and the result is on your screen right now. And even though we can't see these girls' facial expressions and their reaction, rest assured that they were pretty sure I was gonna come with something sexual. Maybe they're like, oh no, this guy's gonna turn this conversation sexual already. And then, boo, I'm talking about dogs in the bed or cats in the bed. And whew, a little bit of an emotional peak for them in the conversation, which is always good. And now it's time for Barnett's technique that allows you, if you copy it, to sexualize any topic at all. Let's have a look.
I played baseball my whole life.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
What position?
Like, what's my favorite position? Is that what you're asking? Just kidding. I was a pitcher.
That was amazing. I love that.
That was amazing. I love that, says Jessica after Barnett purposely misinterprets what she's saying, right? She goes like, hey, what was your position on the baseball field, obviously? And Barnett goes like, pretending he didn't understand, like, oh, what's my favorite position? Is that what you're asking? And Jessica just cracks up and then they continue the conversation as if nothing happened. This is a super harmless way to sexualize a conversation without having to be some pervert that's like, I like to fuck, I wanna fuck you hard. My favorite position is doggy style, I'm gonna pound you from behind.
The hardest part is not being able to see facial expressions. So like, I'm gonna come off creepy to some of them probably.
And a final tip for you here. As you can see, Barnett's way of communicating is quite polarizing. You could say it's a bit over the top. And this is gonna work great on some and it's gonna really repel some other women. He knows he's playing a risky game here, and that's why he just said like, the most difficult part is not having facial expression. Like, I'm probably gonna come across as really creepy to some. And that is why I would advise you to be really careful when using sarcasm over text. My coaches and I are always saying, really be careful with sarcasm because it works in real life because, you, as Barnett says, you have the facial expression, and Barnett even still has tonality in his voice. You know, he can be like, oh, are you asking what's my favorite position? And you can kind of hear it in the way he's saying it, but over text, except when you're using voice messages, it's just the words, and it, even though you meant it to be really funny, it can come across as really creepy, so be careful with sarcasm. This was it for this new type of video on my channel. I'm not sure if you like it, but if you do, please use the thumbs up button because it's just a great indicator for me to see how many people actually like it, and I'll gladly make more of these type of videos for you. If you have any other shows that you really like, or maybe more of Love is Blind, maybe you want specific characters from the show analyzed, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll make a video about your request really soon. Thanks for watching and have a good day.